Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1-minute segments and then examine it in an obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco. Kyle, Ray,
yes,
joining us again for another minute. Okay, now, there was a movie I believe we talked about early on when we began season 3. We talked about other movies that have the number 2 in the title. And I believe one of those movies we talked about was RoboCop 2.
Oh, yes.
Now, RoboCop 2, 1990 American science fiction action film directed by Irvin Kershner.
Oh,
yes.
the Kirsch.
That Irvin Kershner.
Wow.
Well, that I didn't know.
And yes, that Irvin Kershner.
That information was like a blast of nuke right to my system.
Right? Like, what? Written by Frank Miller. And yes, that Frank Miller.
Yeah.
Wow.
And also by Waylon Green. That name you may not be familiar with. You were if you watched 1980s episodic police television. He won multiple Emmys for Hill Street Blues, Law and Order, and NYPD Blue.
Oh, he was there for the cop part of RoboCop.
Yeah, the cop part of RoboCop, correct. All right. Now, everyone, I'm sure a lot of people who grew up in the time frame that we're all from, you've seen RoboCop. RoboCop 2, interesting sequel. Basically, OCP renders Detroit bankrupt. They try to make a RoboCop 2 on their own. We mentioned it in the last minute. Basically, at this point, this is the homage in Iron Man 2 is to those sequences. And they have this really crazy sequence where they're trying to build these RoboCop 2s based on the remains of other police officers. And basically, the police officers, as soon as they flip the switch, they go insane. They either accidentally shoot the lab technicians right to the next to them, or they take their own lives. It's crazy. It's one of those scenes in RoboCop 2. If you haven't seen it, they push the envelope, and they already pushed the envelope in the first one. They obliterated the envelope in RoboCop 2. And it's a mix of just ridiculous horror and craziness, trying to make it funny. Your mileage will vary, as I always say this.
We're still in the Senate chamber here at minute 17 of Iron Man 2, directed by Jon Favreau from the far-off year of 2010, celebrating its 10th anniversary. Woo! So we have the trial of Tony Stark is still continuing. Now, at this point, Tony has taken command of the monitors in the room and is showing footage that no one expected to see. And so they are frantically trying to stop this footage from being shown. So they're running around in panic and pulling cables and trying to get out there. Even Justin Hammer jumps up there like, oh no, my livelihood's at stake, like trying to get out there. We see Tony then throws up footage from Iran. So we see actually they're further along in terms of like the flying suit. So they actually have a person in a suit really quickly who then flies up and immediately slams into the ground and then rolls over into the camera. And probably I don't think that cameraman made it. And so, yeah, Tony's commentary on that is no grave immediate threat here. And then next on his playlist, I love that he has created a little playlist for all the things. Is that Justin Hammer? And so then he brings up the Hammer, the Hammer Industries footage. And he says, Justin, you're on TV. Focus up, as Justin's frantically pulling cables trying to stop this thing down. So we see Justin Hammer has created his own Iron Man suit. I mean, it's a big. I mean, it looks. Everything's in black and white, right?
No, his is color. His sequence
is color.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so the suit is gray then.
Right.
So just like the Mark 1 and the Mark 2, it's in like the gray. He hasn't put the spinning rims on it yet. So he sees somebody there, and so Justin is standing next to this test pilot who's in there and having him go through a range of motions and like lifting his legs and doing it, and then just turns at the waist 180 degrees, and so does the pilot, and it swings around a whole 180 degrees. You hear the pilot screaming in pain.
No, okay. So two interesting things about this. One, and obviously, okay, the continued development of understanding who the Justin Hammer character is.
Yeah.
We talked about how Tony got control of these screens, right? And that's real. Yes. Like that, right? You can understand how that technology would happen. He just needs to go for the power plug.
Yeah.
And what this is showing is he doesn't understand technology at all. Right. This whole sequence is, dude, he just talks. Yeah. And you got it clearly right here in this moment.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
He is definitely like the CEO part of it. Like he is signing checks for the smart people.
He is a hands-off CEO. He brings the money, and that's it.
If you put him in the cave with the same stuff that Tony Stark
Right.
used to create the first arc reactor, he wouldn't create anything.
No. And that's
He's
interesting
all
too, 'cause
about
you-
the Flash.
Yes,
Exactly. No, it's
Yeah.
the performance. It's the nonsense, right? And you get that. Now, is there something to talk about with the gentleman who was in this suit that got injured?
Well, I thought that thing too. So there is some Marvel like lore,
Right.
Because so in the far off year from this of 2016, we have Dr. Stephen Strange is a prominent spinal surgeon or like a surgeon. So he's driving one night. They're going through a list of cases, and they mention one of those cases being a pilot who has a severed spine, crushed spine. I can't remember what the exact term is. So I looked. I thought, I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is it, because people said, oh, they're talking about Rhodey, and I'm like, and then people were saying like, oh, what if he's talking about the guy from Just Hammer? And the timeline doesn't really work, because when he's talking about that happened in 2016, and obviously here we are in 2010. So by the Marvel timeline, neither of those events really tie into it.
Right.
So I guess you can, if you find a way to sort of fold those things in together, that this person has been, bedridden for the last 5 years, and
That's the way you'd explain it. Exactly. Right.
Oh, okay. But like, yeah, the Rhodey thing hadn't happened yet by that point, and this one had already been years. So, okay, I guess if you want to say that this is like a case that suddenly came back up for whatever reason, sure. But otherwise, it was just a happenstance.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I know that's been a discussion over the years about as soon as after Doctor Strange came out. But yeah, the time doesn't really match up. So.
Yeah. So then Justin Hammer finally does get wise and finally just yanks the power cord out.
Well, it took him long enough.
It sure did.
Jeez, seriously.
So then, and as he's doing this, Tony says, "Yeah, I'd say most countries are 5 to 10 years away. Hammer Industries, 20." And then I love Justin runs around the table, grabs a microphone, and goes, "I'd like to point out that test pilot survived,"
which just proves that Sam Rockwell is just a treasure.
He is fantastic.
This is a great performance. I mean, we're just in the beginning. He's so great as this character, but also you get the character immediately is like damage control. Immediately goes in, and it's not even good damage control. It's tone deaf damage control.
Yes.
Saying this guy survived after you've seen him, bilaterally destroyed. Like, come on, dude. Don't even just sit down. Like, it just shows how much he doesn't get. He doesn't have a lot of situational awareness. That's one of the things that
Pick up the hammer.
Jeez. I got really Oh boy, that was pretty good. I was like, "What is happening?" And I realized. For like
try not to interrupt you.
No, that was good. That was awesome.
Apparently, it was hammer time.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen quite a lot. No, I just love that, and then I love the going back to Tony as he's saying this, and again, look at Don Cheadle. Just look at Rhodes
smiling behind his
sitting.
hand, cannot show how delighted he is.
He's
by Tony
hiding
dancing.
the smile, but he's got the side eye to Tony, just going, "Dude, you're making it worse for all of us."
And you know what? Just those little subtle actions that Don Cheadle takes in this sequence at the Senate hearing, just for my money, is a million times better than the guy who shall not be named from Iron Man 1.
Yeah. Well, isn't that great though? I mean, that shows you. Here's how great actors make other actors better in these scenes. Because part of what sells that, I think, is this hubris that we are obviously developing with Tony. Is those other characters? Both of these guys make Tony even more ridiculous in this. It's just great. I just love it.
I say one of the unsung hero in this, and that Favreau pointed out, is actually the editor, because he actually singles out Christopher Barron as one of the editors who basically took on this scene, because this scene was way longer. Like, and we've seen deleted scenes, but there's even more stuff we haven't seen that this scene on, and they said it was killing the movie, because it's so early on, and now you're in a trial and you can't get out of it. There's all this new characters and exposition and all these things. And so this was like his, one of the things that it was right up until the end they were still editing it. Like it wasn't until like the final cut of the movie where they finally had a version of this that they really liked. And it was I think it was Christopher that he said was the one who basically took it on as a personal challenge. And so everybody was just like throughout the entire process was just cutting and trying to get it into a thing. And finding moments like that is one of the brilliant things because of all the hours and hours of footage to find those couple of moments where you can have that much storytelling and character and acting where you just like this little thing. That's the genius of editing.
You know what else is great about the editing here is the very even balanced going back and forth between C-SPAN footage and movie footage.
Yes.
And that's important because what it's made, and we'll talk about this again in the next minute.
Because that's all of these process stuff. That's
interconnected, right? But what I love about this is telling you the story is that you're seeing the nuances of those moments of like their reactions to one another. But then you're seeing how does this play as a viewer, as let's say I was sitting at my home watching this because spoilers, someone's watching this.
Yes.
Right. That's what they're doing here. The editor is putting you in the place of that third observer.
Yeah.
And how do these moments of this, again, this attitude from Tony, how does it play? This is brilliantly done. I mean, you'd think this is just, nothing. No, a lot of thought went into how this is told. Yeah. Nice job.
Yeah, so then Senator Stern is trying to get control of this and says, I think we're done, is the point he's making. And so that's not the point Tony is making, which he says, the point is you're welcome, I guess, because I'm your nuclear deterrent. It's working. We're safe. America is secure. You want my property? You can't have it. But I did you a big favor, and this is the big line that always comes up. I have successfully privatized world peace. And then does the Nixon.
Yeah. Victory. The double victory.
What more do you want? And that's when the minute comes to an end.
So let me ask you guys a question.
Yeah.
So in watching this minute on the Blu-ray, I had the commentary on, and Jon Favreau said something about these other test suits in other countries they referred to them as feebles.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's just... No, I think that's just a industry term.
Okay.
Like in terms of just like the graphic design, things.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I heard that too, and I didn't know what that was either. I couldn't find anything about it because when you look at Feebles, you find Meet the Feebles, which is a Peter Jackson movie, has nothing to do with this. But if you're of a unique mindset, it's an enjoyable film to watch.
Wouldn't it be funny if it's literally just short for feeble attempts at making an Iron Man?
Yeah, that actually makes a ton of sense.
That would be hilarious.
Feeble attempts. Yeah.
Jeez.
No prize sent. I like that.
So, as we're watching this, obviously, based on his performance, I wouldn't give many stars to Justin Hammer.
No? You don't think so?
Because he fumbled this whole thing here.
But the pilot lived.
I know, but in a world of business acumen and and PR, I'm not going to give Justin. I'm not going to give him a high rating. However, I would hope that there are people that our listeners would be willing to give a much higher rating, maybe as high as 5 stars.
Oh, and you can do so over at iTunes or Pocket Casts, whatever your podcatcher of choice. We're looking for your reviews, and our favorite number of stars is 5.
We appreciate it. Please,
all right, and remember, all 3 of us lived through this entire recording, so I mean, if that's not worth 5 stars,
there is that.
So thank you all for listening. Ray, can you hang out with us as the trial continues? I mean, you are our legal expert.
I'm in traction, but I can hang out.
But you lived. The point is that you lived.
I'll be here.
Make sure you're all here back for minute 18 as the trial will finally conclude and we can move on to maybe some Iron Man action. Wouldn't that be nice? So stick around. Enough said.
Bye.